The Dutch architect Piet Blom is nowadays known for his unusual housing complexes with very unique formal expression and a strong focus of the connection between the public and private sphere. His architectural approach is deeply rooted in his views on society and its role within the built environment. For Blom, it was clear that architecture is more than creating a place, as it is more about creating a society. To get a better understanding of how this architect came to his very unique views, it is necessary to look at where he came from. Born on the 8th of February 1934, Blom grew up in the district Jordaan in Amsterdam. In this workers' class district, in the year of Blom's birth, a workers' riot took place, which even led to several people being killed. The district was considered problematic or even a slum in Amsterdam at that time. When Piet Blom describes his childhood, he draws a very vivid image of the streets of his youth. The people in the district were very dependent on each other. Small businesses and the close relationships of the people shaped the character of Jordaan. Neglecting the functioning public space because it was seen as a poor people's district with many issues, the city Amsterdam consecutively began with the gentrification of Jordaan. For Blom, the severe change of his everyday surroundings was the crucial point for his critique towards the politics of urban planning at the time. To clean up the slums is nothing else than to clean up the community within them or to subjugate them to aesthetics. By cleaning up a district of its characteristics and separating housing and living, society was led to create districts with the only purpose of isolated existence. The following quote expresses Blom's stance towards a functioning district perfectly. What ages gains humanity, so do houses and environments. But to grow older and more human in process, houses, their surroundings, and their occupants must have a core of vitality within them. For Blom, spatial planning was clearly a fourth-dimensional task, with time as the fourth factor or dimension. Considering time as a basis for the public sphere, Blom intended to create spaces for the uncertain within an adaptable framework, allowing change to happen over time. With this position, Blom was close to his colleagues of Dutch structuralism, who all saw the collective as a crucial starting point for each architectural design. The collective, for Blom, was the active part in architecture, moving through time and space and therefore creating history. The concept of the Kasbah in Hengelo can therefore be seen as a manifesto of Blom's way of thinking about public space. The uplifted structure leaves space for uncertainty to happen, which is supposed to create an active part. It allows residents to manifest themselves within the complex. For him, it never made sense to design standard housing for the average, with the main focus lying on an appropriate private space and subjugating the public sphere for infrastructure, leaving no room for the social component in the district. Blom didn't see the main problem in apartments not aging well, but rather in the planned urban context surrounding them. The Kasbah is located in the border area of Hengelo, even though the project was once thought to be in a more central location. The area is poorly served by bike paths and public transportation. Most of the surrounding buildings were built during the same period. A big majority of housing and just a small amount of commercial uses characterizes the neighborhood. Surrounded by small rivers and patches of grass and trees, the Kasbah seems slightly separated from the neighboring buildings. Piet Blom's approach was meant as a counterpart against the monotony of the row houses and flats of the time. So at the Kasbah, the homes are situated in a closely packed configuration on the first floor. They form a roof above an open area that the residents can use for communal purposes and leisure. By accommodating urban life on two levels, the ground floor space is supposed to be reserved for the city's public life. According to Blom, it is not up to the architect to determine how that space is used. There are fewer people on the first floor. Retail space and studios are almost entirely vacant or rented. Concerts were held in the amphitheater, which is nowadays closed off to prevent nuisance in the complex. Which was once meant to leave space for possible encounters and happenings over time, became more of a large space for parking lots. The character that Blom had in mind seems to be gone in many parts. Or is it still hidden and yet to be discovered again? The use of a certain repetition within the structure also shows within the floor plans, where Blom designed the dwellings of the Kasbah with a certain type of standardization as a basis. The dwellings all have a certain basic unit which provides all the main living functions like the entrance hall, kitchen, bedroom and the living room, which is a maisonette for more living comfort and a direct line of sight to the main bedroom. Also described by Blum, what is very special in the Casbah is the fact that you are able to look into the sleeping floor from downstairs, which gives the house a lot of space. This unit serves as a basis and is extended in specific ways to create bigger types of dwellings. Type A, atelier or student house, stays in the boundaries of this basic unit. Type B, the little house, only adds a terrace to this core which can be used as a garden, while Type C, the normal medium-sized house with a garden, has an added, by Bloom called sleeping shed, to extend the first floor as an addition to the layout of Type B. The sleeping floor is apart from the fixed bathroom an open floor plan. All residents can decide how to use this space and create their own floor plans. Parents with kids could divide the room into multiple children bedrooms and use the space as a big atelier in a later part of life. Every resident gets a lot of freedom and the chance to create a place to feel at home, even though these are rented dwellings. Bloom wanted each house to be recognizable and unique. Their residents had to be able to identify with it. Even though Bloom designed a dwelling which gave its residents a lot of freedom, the main point of interest was the social context, also implemented in the floor plans. He made a conscious effort to achieve a residential density that can bring people closer together, a place that breaks within the isolation within the current dwelling buildings. Based on the before-mentioned research, we tried to study the possibility of the future from 4 dimensions and summarize the characteristics of these ideas. First, P. Bloom's ideas. Second, related theories. Third, uses of the Casbah. Fourth, other theories and distant future. Based on the characteristics of these theories, we abstracted the crucial elements and organized them into a toolbox. This toolbox contains 5 aspects: city position, expectation, personal ideas, architectural layers, and site. With this toolbox, we can use it to disassemble any building or theory into basic elements and then classify and pack them into the box. For instance, the Casbah. Its city position is border, expectation is social justice, which comes from structuralism. The personal idea is city roof, similar with the cube houses, and so on. These cards are abstracted from other theories and designs. With these cards, we can add or replace cards from the same category in the Casbah with any element. These newly generated results are the possible future of the Casbah. For example, if we replace the structure in the Casbah with the megastructure of the metabolic theory and the technological utopia, we can get a future with multiple floors, with houses and public space. Or we can add the expectation, unaided self-help, which comes from the SIA system. We can get a future that half of which is the main functional room, the other half can be constructed by residents with any shapes and activities. Or through the perspective of residents, removing and combining parts of houses can effectively solve the contradiction between high density and suburban area life and meet the needs of residents to improve the quality of space. In this way, as long as the toolbox is sufficient, we can generate countless futures. Although these futures have their own limitations, they are related with the reality. In fact, studying the future of the Casbah is not to study its real result, but more to study the rules and relationships. This should be the manifestation of synchronicity and diachronicity in structuralism, and it is also the meaning of temporality in the Casbah. So, what is the real future of the Casbah? Or what is your future of the Casbah?